So this Tuesday, am I on? Oh, this is, this is live radio. You just never know what's going to happen, right? So this is Noreen Sumter. Like I said before, on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way. It is Tuesday evening. And as you all know, Tuesday evening is my favorite time of the week. I say it every week, and I know it's really corny, but do I care? No. So Tuesday evening is where I get to mash it up with guests, people. My show is for ordinary people living extraordinary lives, people that are living life their way. And so tonight I have an extraordinary, I think actually one of the most extraordinary people that I could actually have on my show right now. We're on the radio. She's a juggler. How are we going to see that? I have no idea. But you know what? We'll work it out. But before I go into that, I just want to share like what's been going on in my week. So I know most of you have heard me speak about my mother many, many times on the radio and speak about her in the sense that she had Alzheimer's and all that, stuff. She's Alzheimer's. She was incapacitated. She couldn't talk, she was basically reduced to the life of a baby, right? Well, on Saturday morning at 6:00, she left her body and went on, as they say, to glory. And as many of you know, I've received so many condolences, and today I looked at it, probably like 294 condolences. And one of the things I realized is I always look at my likes and non-likes for my birthday, and every year I want to see it go up, right? So, but what I really was touched by was the amount of people that reached out to me and gave their condolences and said really wonderful things and just really shared. And I just want to say that I'm really grateful for that. For me, my mother's died is not a sad space because my mother lived a full and complete life. She completed her life at 90. She had a great life. She had 9 children. So she's got 9 people that have gone on into the world and created more children, except for me. I wasn't having any children, not doing that. And so she's touched many lives and just really, I say she was the best mother. She was my best mother, right? She was the perfect mother for me. And I am, honored to have her in my life, and she'll always be in my life. She, even though her body is dead, her life, her energy, her spirit is in me. And like I always say to my clients when they, tell me things like their parents have died or they're really sad, and, or have friends that have been counting the number of years that their parents have been dead, each to their own. But for me, it's like digging her up every year and celebrating, or mourning, right? That's not going to happen. And so I am completely complete. There's nothing that I haven't said to my mother or didn't say to my mother. We did all the I love yous and the, conversations and, that healed or whatever wounds there was, because there wasn't. She gave me my life at 16, pretty much. I was free to do whatever. But I am, I had this experience when my sister told me that my mother had died on Saturday, of my mother, hooking up with my dad, because my dad's dead. And, reconnecting with her father, her sister, and all the family members that I didn't know and did know. And I just thought, wow, if you really think about it, it's going to be like a massive party up there, And so I don't live in the world of it's like really sad or it's depressing or any of that kind of stuff. There's no strength that I need to have. There's no sorrow there's no loss. It's just, if we are human beings and we are alive, the moment we're alive, we're also dying. And that's kind of the way I see it, just very matter of fact. It's just a part of life and a part of living. So I just want to say thank you to all those people that sent me condolences, and let's get on with the show.
It's a beautiful outlook and a beautiful tribute.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tonight, my guest is Jen Slaw. I always think of coleslaw.
Yes. Heard that one before.
I know I'm not the first, right? You've probably heard it your whole life.
Yes.
Jen Slaw, who is a keynote speaker and a juggler.
That's correct.
So welcome to the show. Welcome
great to be on the show.
Potential, Live Life Your Way.
Thanks for having me,
You're
Noreen.
welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for saying yes.
Mhm.
And so I have, every month I do Lunch Lady. And so what I decided was that I would bring the speaker for Lunch Lady to the show. So that they can just get a little bit more insight. People can hear about them. They can talk about what they're going to be doing, why they're doing it, why they do, just like some knowledge about each other. And so I wanted to have you on the show so that you could it's a prelude to what's going to actually happen.
Sure.
So welcome.
Thank
So
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you hail from?
Sure. Well, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, suburbs of Philadelphia.
Okay.
That's where I learned how to juggle, actually, at the
okay.
Drexel Hill Middle School in 6th grade.
Mhm.
And, something that was just a hobby at the time has turned into a crazy career.
And how old were you when you started?
So I was in 6th grade, so I was, 11, 10, 11, 11, I guess, when I learned how to juggle.
Right. And so did you juggle in the air? Because we used to play what we call 3 balls, right? Which was we'd throw the balls up against the wall and we'd play with them that way, or we threw the balls to each other.
I know, that's amazing. I have to see this in action, Noreen.
I don't know if I can still do it. I probably can still do it. I spent hours doing it. So
Yeah. Well, I actually learned in school, one of our teachers taught our whole class how to juggle. It was a lesson in focus and concentration. He had learned how to juggle later in life, and he found it to be such a valuable skill. And he said, well, everybody's got to learn how to do this. If you can concentrate and focus, you can learn how to juggle 3 balls.
Right.
And so everybody basically learned the 3-ball juggle. And then he just went on to set up a whole system of levels tests where we could graduate from one level to the next and learn more and more tricks and performance. And he put together a performance troupe of students, and I just got really into it because, it was something that other people couldn't do. I loved the performance aspect of it. I had taken ballet from the age of 6, so I loved
I did it from 7
performing.
to 16.
Yeah. So, it was just a natural fit, and I loved, the challenge of figuring out new tricks.
Right.
And so it just became a thing that I did, and I started performing with the students.
Right.
And, going to elementary schools to perform, actually then starting to get paid for performances. He started to take some of us out
got paid
on professional gigs. My first professional gig was at the St. Sahag Meshrab Armenian Church outside of Philadelphia.
Say that again.
Sahag Meshrab, if I'm saying that right.
Right.
And I remember I got paid $50 to do my juggling act in 7th grade. I think I wore an all pink sweatsuit, my pink high tops. I thought it was so cool.
Was this
but
the
it was
80s?
This would have been I guess the early 90s.
Right.
So just at the end of the
Right. Because I was you said the pink sweatsuit with the high top sneakers.
the pink scrunchie.
Oh, Jesus. Do you have pictures of those?
Probably somewhere. I have to dig them up. So so it was something that then I paid my way, a lot of my way through college, all through high school and college. I was doing juggling gigs on the side. It's funny, I was just talking about this. I got one regular job in high school working at a home goods store. And there happened to be a weekend. It was the July 4th weekend. I got a call from my juggling colleagues, and there was an opportunity to perform at the waterfront in Philadelphia for the 4th of July weekend. 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. I think it paid $400 a day. I would go and perform, and I was making minimum wage at the home goods store. And I hadn't been working there for that long. And I asked for the 2 days off. They said, no, I couldn't have both days off. And I was like, well, I guess that's it. I quit. That was the end of my regular job. And I went and then did the juggling job and kept doing that all through high school. And even, once I started working in New York.
Who would have thought that, right? Because, the only way that I think of a juggler is you have to be part of a circus. Right? So you did it without the circus. You didn't have to run away.
Yeah, and I've taught with the Big Apple Circus, and there's a little bit of that circus element. But that's been, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but that's been one of the challenges too, in terms of, now what I do with the juggling and changing people's mindsets about what juggling is, and how it's not just something that clowns do, in the circus.
So when you juggled your way through college, what else? Tell me a little bit more about yourself. I want to hear about your parents. Are you guys American born, or did they come from somewhere else, or?
All American.
You have a look.
American born. I'm half Italian. My mom's side was all Italian. My dad's side was a combination of German and English and maybe something else we're not sure of. We were always a little closer with my mom's side of the family, the Italian side. I have 2 younger sisters, one who's 2 years younger and one who's 10 years younger.
Right. And did you know what you wanted to do as a young adult going into school?
No, I wasn't totally sure. I mean, I was very academic in high school. I was valedictorian of my high school class. And I always really liked math and science, so I thought maybe I wanted to go into something with that. But I was also very artistic. I loved juggling, I loved performing, and I loved drawing.
Right.
So
you use both sides of your brain.
Yeah, so I had thought about, maybe architecture is a good fit. I wasn't really sure. And when I visited colleges, I visited Swarthmore, which ultimately ended up being my first choice, which is where I went. And speaking to one of the engineering professors there on my visit, he said, if you're debating, if you're really strong in math and science, you might want to consider engineering. And we're always looking for more female engineers, and that might help you with your, acceptance. And I thought, well, this sounds pretty cool. So that's what I went in as an engineering major. And as my family and friends all know, pretty much every year of college, I debated whether or not I should drop engineering. Right. It's like I loved certain parts of it and I hated certain parts of it. And so what I ultimately ended up doing was double majoring in engineering and art, so that I had really, both loves. And it was a ton of work, but it kind of, as I say, kept me balanced through college, having that outlet to go to the studio and just make art. And then go work on my engineering problem sets. So, when I graduated from school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
I was still
juggling on the side. Yeah, and I'd gone to school. Swarthmore was about 20 minutes from where I grew up. So I was still able to perform with the teacher, Jackie Erickson, who I'm still very close with. And some other students. Yeah. So actually just had a phone call with him the other day. So but yeah, so I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and I decided to move to New York with one of my college roommates and get a job with the Parks Department. Right. They had an amazing program called the Class Up program, where they recruited top students from top schools for interesting positions within the Parks Department. So I was assistant to the chief of design in the Parks Department. And that was an amazing first job in New York City, because I got to really get to know the city. I got to follow him around to meetings and see kind of what was going on. I got to drive a Parks vehicle around New York City, which is great. So, and I worked on some really interesting projects like the Coney Island Stadium for the minor league baseball teams, and just some interesting projects. But along the way, I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. The pay wasn't great for living in New York for this job. So about a year in, I decided to transition to the engineering department of the Parks Department and give engineering one final try. And did that for a little while, and then ultimately switched over to a private engineering firm, better pay. It seemed like more interesting engineering projects. And I did that for a few years. And again, I got to work on some really interesting sounding projects. I'm
going to ask you to hold that thought.
Sure.
And we're going to we'll be right back.
Sure.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network. Are you stuck in a rut? Negative thoughts, feelings, and conversations got you down? Hi, I'm Noreen Sumter, the Potentiator. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time and listen for new ideas on my show, Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
And we're back on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way. And I'm speaking with Jen Slaw, who is going to be the speaker at Lunch Lady and what is it? Dropping the ball. How to drop the ball.
What to do when you drop the ball.
What to do when you drop the ball. Hint, pick it up.
That's right.
So now you were in engineering, you left the parks department, you've gone into private industry, you are now getting paid better, but intuitively you know this is not for you. What was it like for you staying on the job? Because I want to hear this, I want people to hear this, what it was like for you staying on a job that you actually did not enjoy.
Yeah, and I enjoyed parts of it, and I think that was what kept me there. But I knew, you're right, intuitively I knew that it wasn't the right fit for me. I felt like I wasn't really getting the opportunity to exercise my creativity. You know, the idea of engineering that I had in my head was a lot different than the actual practice of it, what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, you know, plugging numbers into equations and not really getting to be creative and to connect with other people and to see your projects realized. You know, so many of these projects took years. So it started to get frustrating and I started to be resentful and hate it and be miserable. And I think that was, you know.
Did you do things like come to work late?
Maybe, maybe a little bit, you know,
a little bit of sabotage
do some
here and
distracting things, you know, you know, instead of working, falling asleep. I mean, my now husband, we started dating. We met at the office, and he would come over and visit my cubicle, and he would see me sort of dozing off, and it was, you know, because I was so bored, I just hated it, and so that was, you know, something, and I think it was something, you know, all through college. I remember, you know, my mom saying, you know, okay, if you don't want to do engineering, you know, don't do engineering. And it wasn't until senior year when I was like, that's it, I've had it, I'm quitting. She's like, no, now you're sticking with it because you've done 3 years through that final year. But ultimately, you know, I decided I had to try something else. And I had this passion for performing, and I was still doing it on the side all through, you know, working as an engineer. And I was meeting more and more entertainers in New York City who were making a living doing this. And I thought, you know, I have to give it a try. And
So I want to know, how did you go from engineering to juggling, right? Did you leave engineering and then pop into juggling?
Well, I always make a joke out of it. You know, I did what any rational person would do, and I quit my engineering job and became a professional juggler. And it sounds, you know, but it was a big transit. There was a long transition period, and I had built up.
What was it that caused that transition period? What was your experience like?
Well, I resigned the engineering job at a time when I knew they needed help and I knew they liked my work, and I had a feeling that they would let me stay on part-time and have some flexibility. So I had about a year of transition period where I worked 20 hours a week, the engineering, and then I was working, doing my juggling gigs, going to the Big Apple Circus, teaching at their after-school program, performing at FAO Schwartz, you know, doing all these cool juggling gigs around the city. And the company was amazing. They were super flexible. They let me, you know, change my hours depending on what my juggling gigs were. And so that was really great. And I mean, practical things like before I, you know, left, I took care of all my medical appointments, things like that. You know, I actually moved to a cheaper apartment in Brooklyn with a roommate from Craigslist, you know, and things like this too, because I knew there created a strategy. I knew there would be, a transition period of, you know, to make that income back. And because, you know, this is what I had to give it a try. And ultimately, I got laid off after about a year. They laid off all the part-time people because they were running low on work. And I think that was really the final push, you know, I needed. You know, it's easy to hang on to that security. And so that was great. I remember going to my husband's cubicle and saying, I got laid off, and kind of doing a little dance. And he was like, this is not the reaction most normal people have. You know?
Well, actually, you know, to be quite honest, like people that I work with as a coach, when they call me up and say something happened, I usually go, what? And they go, I got laid off, or I got fired, or something happened. And I usually say, how do you feel? And they're like, I'm so happy.
Yeah. So congratulations.
If you're complete with a particular job, like you're complete with it, it's best to be complete rather than to leave with some kind of anxiety or resentment or whatever you, so that you're free to actually go create what's next. So you created what's next.
So then I started, you know, teaching, performing. I was running some circus camps for children. I was performing, you know, doing all sorts of various events. I did a couple cruise ships. Ultimately did an off-Broadway show with a male juggler. It was called Perfect Catch, a thromantic comedy. So it told the story of a boy and a girl coming together through juggling. We always say, like, as in a Broadway show where they break out into song to tell the story, we break out into a juggling act. And so that was super fun. We got some amazing reviews on that, and just have gotten to do some really amazing experiences. And then ultimately was contacted by a teacher, a 5th grade teacher in New Jersey, who juggled and taught his students how to juggle and play chess. And he had started a charity called Juggling Life, which used juggling and other performance arts as a way to inspire ill and underprivileged youth, and to sort of use this as a tool to to help them redefine what's possible in their lives. And so he contacted me out of the blue. He was looking for professional jugglers who would be interested in coming in and volunteering with the organization and helping to inspire the kids. And I said, sure, you know, I'll come. He sent me a DVD. I loved what they were doing. I went out to an event. A couple of years later, I became the executive director of the charity. So that's how things kind of go.
So how long did you stay with them? And, you know, when you were like going through this experience with the juggling, right? And first of all, who said you were mad? How many people told you were crazy?
Not too many. I think maybe they were afraid to. I mean, I think people knew how passionate I was about it, you know, in terms of especially family. And they knew that I was actually doing real gigs and getting paid real money to do this, you know? Yeah.
And so what was the comments when people said to you, said to people, what do you do? I'm a juggler.
No, really, like a lot of people think it's a metaphor. You know, like, oh yeah, we're all jugglers, you know. But really, what do you do? You know.
Because when I met you, you told me you were a juggler, and I was like, oh really, you juggle? And then you started juggling, and it was like pretty awesome. That was like nearly 2 years ago?
Right, probably about 3 to 4 years ago now, because that was before my son came onto the scene.
So so you're juggling. And like, tell me how you transitioned it into where you're actually working with corporations. How did that come about?
Yeah, and that kind of all started with getting involved with this nonprofit, Juggling Life, because I was then invited to speak at a TEDx conference in Princeton about the work the charity was doing and about how we were helping young people to redefine what's possible in their lives. And you know, putting that TEDx talk together was an amazing experience. And that really started to get me thinking about so many of the principles of actual juggling that can help to inform our work and lives. And there was someone in the audience at the TEDx conference who worked at Bristol Myers Squibb, the pharmaceutical company. And she afterwards, she said to me, this would be amazing for my team. Do you do team building programs? And I had started kind of thinking about it and sort of putting some programs together, but hadn't really gotten it out there yet. And of course I said, yes, I do. And so that was really the first gig I had, which was more speaking and training. And that really got the ball rolling in terms of developing more material and programs, team building programs, but also just staff development and training, which is what I do now, and speaking at conferences, you know, kicking off meetings and conferences. So yeah, the catalyst was was the charity.
So what's one of the distinctions of juggling, like, you know, methods of juggling?
Well, I worked with a coach to sort of transition as well, excuse me, and I wanted to get some media attention. And so he said, you know, you've got to have a little acronym, you know, a 3 or 4 step acronym, catchy to get on the morning shows. So I started to really think about the principles and how to kind of encompass it all in, you know, 3 or 4 short little bits. And what I came up with was what I call my BALL framework or formula, BALL, because we start juggling with a single ball, break it down, ask for help, learn from the drops, and let it go. Okay. So these are the 4 basic principles that, I mean, really apply to anything in life or in the professional world, that can help us to really deal with change, to stay nimble in the face of change, to adopt the idea of continuous learning and improvement, and always, you know, being flexible as things change. You know, we talk about dropping the ball. What do you do? Yeah, what do you do when you drop the ball? Well, you have to pick it up, but you have to try to learn from it. You know, mistakes are stepping stones to success if we can figure out what went wrong and what we can do differently for the next attempt. So
and what's the feedback that you've been getting with people who use your BALL?
I get amazing feedback. I get feedback, you know, that one, it's you know, it's a new language. It's a new vocabulary that coworkers can say to each other, and it brings levity to a moment. I was doing an event for Con Ed actually in the city, and even before I got there, we had talked about, you know, the content, and the man who was hiring me called me and said, you know what, we started using your learn from the drops. They had made some sort of error with their numbers. This was the accounting department, and one of the guys said to the other, you know, learn from the drops. So it sort of brought a little levity to the moment, but they knew exactly what it meant. Like, we have to fix this problem, we have to figure out what went wrong, and we have to put a system or a process in place for this not to happen again, and so that we can achieve our goal. And juggling is such a perfect metaphor because it's a step-by-step process of, you know, of this feedback loop, you know, trying something, getting feedback, making an adjustment. And people love it because it's something that brings a little fun to it. It kind of levels the playing field. So everyone is a beginner mostly when I go into an organization, and it's very interactive. I do a lot of exercises with them where they're juggling with each other. So they're connecting, and so much of in this digital world, we're not connecting with each other. And we're not doing physical things. And I believe we learn so much more on a deeper level when we physically experience something. And so by walking through this process of learning to juggle, people are really physically internalizing this. And then when they go back to their desk, they're like, oh yeah, this was like when we tossed the ball to each other. And, we're thinking about communication and how are we interacting? And, are we really being open with each other and honest? And
so what I want to know is like, you're going to be coming to Lunch Lady, right? So BALL, how are you going to support the women in this area? A lot of these women are new businesses. Some of them have been in business a while. There's a lot of like, the space that I'm creating is where people feel courageous and they feel comfortable and they can talk about, but most of the individuals are solopreneurs, right? So how would you help them in the realm of juggling, being a solopreneur, being that they have all these issues? How would you help them to juggle?
There's a few key things. The most common overarching principle is dealing with change. Right. And change is constant. Obviously, we have to not just manage it, but be looking to actively create it for ourselves. So how do we do that? Well, we do that by embracing the idea of continuous learning and improvement. And so that's what juggling is. It's continuously learning new things, continuously tweaking to make improvements in what we're doing. It's also collaboration. We need to be collaborating with each other. We need to be reaching out and asking for help so that we're not so overwhelmed. As one woman businesses, it can become really lonely and overwhelming. And I found one of the key things that women especially can have challenges with is reaching out and asking for help. And so that's such a key piece. The other key piece, learning from the drops, letting go. And it's so funny when I'm teaching people how to juggle. And this is one of those things that it's like you have to experience it physically, because you've got these two juggling balls in your hands and you throw the first one and the other one is like glued to your hand. You don't want to let it go because you're so afraid of dropping the ball. So, it's really learning how to let go. And that has, I think, a few levels of meaning, especially for women entrepreneurs. It's letting go of, old patterns that might be holding us back, but it's also letting go of a little bit of control and being open to hiring other people that could help us. That's something that's a challenge for me in my own business, being willing to let go of that control. But I've had to learn it a little bit and I'm still working on it. Hiring someone to design your website, hiring someone to edit your videos, even those are things that I can do and I actually kind of enjoy doing them. Having the artistic background, it's not something that I should be spending my time on. So it's,
we're going to take a pause there. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network at www.talkingalternative.com. Now, broadcasting 24 hours a day. Talking Alternative.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network. Are you stuck in a rut? Negative thoughts, feelings, and conversations got you down? Hi, I'm Noreen Sumter, the Potentiator. Tune in every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time and listen for new ideas on my show, Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way, on talkradio.nyc.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
So we're back on Beyond Potential, Live Life Your Way. I'm with Jen Slaw, who is going to be leading our next lunch lady. And I have a juggling ball right here.
We've got a couple.
So we've
here.
been talking about juggling the balls, but we didn't show you the balls, you know? So it's what to do when you drop a ball. So let's talk about, we were talking about on the break, women having to learn to let go. But I don't think it's just women. I think it's everyone.
Yeah, it is. It's a universal principles. And another thing we were just talking about was the idea of focus and, prioritization. And a lot of people, when they think of juggling, they say, oh, I'm juggling so many things, I'm multitasking. Right. Juggling is not really multitasking. No. Juggling is hyper-focused.
Absolutely.
And it really can become meditative because you're super focused on one thing. And like we were just talking about, time passes.
But it's like, so it will be 3 things, but it's 3 of the same things. It's the multiple parts.
Yeah. And if you notice, even when I'm juggling, now I'm going to juggle on the radio. Here we go. But if I'm juggling 3, even though I'm juggling 3, you can see that there's only one ball in the air at a time.
Right.
So it's that split second of focusing on that one particular ball.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's breaking something down.
I want to see juggle 4.
Often I will. Often we can feel so overwhelmed, right, by what we have to do. But if we can break it down into, goals, steps, projects, action plans, then we can, move forward one step at a time. And I think that's so key as women entrepreneurs as well.
So now when you're juggling, I'm just using this as a metaphor. When you're juggling 4 balls, it's for me, what I see is that you're juggling 4 balls, but it's one project, right? And it's 4 parts of one project.
Well, and I always say with 4 is a slightly different pattern than 3. Odd numbers you're crossing, even numbers you're kind of juggling 2 over here and 2 over here. And depending on how you arrange the balls, you can actually feel more balanced if you're juggling more, right? Because if I'm juggling just 2 in one hand, I'm kind of off balance. But if I add another 2 in the other hand, then I'm nice and even. So I always say this is kind of like when I was majoring in engineering and art, it's kind of crazy and it takes another skill level, but it can keep you more balanced. I'll just do a quick little visual of that. So there's 4.
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
Is that me? I hope not. So you have, well, it will ring off. So you have 4, I have it in my bag over here. So you have 4 balls, but you're only using one hand.
Well, you're using 2
hands. 2 hands, but with,
2 in each hand.
2 in each hand.
And there are different, that's the thing, there's so many different patterns. There's so many ways to juggle them. You can do patterns where they're crossing from one hand to the other.
Right.
And that's, again, such another great metaphor for life. It's like, how do we combine all the different balls that we're juggling, our different passions, skills, interests, talents? There's so many different ways to connect them.
Right.
And so it's not just about the balls, but it's about looking at the space between the balls and about how they're connected and the different patterns. Everybody's going to have such a different, totally unique pattern.
Right.
And if you can learn to combine those things, and that's what ultimately allows us to be more present and focused, if we can integrate our work and our life better, because it's just one of us, right?
Yep.
We're not these work robots that go to work and then we have our life over here.
Yep.
So it's integrating all that.
Most of the people that I work with that are my clients, when they come to me, they're talking about juggling life, work, career, family, children, friends, the whole 9 yards. But really, because what they've done is they've compartmentalized their life. And I find if you compartmentalize your life, you're stressed out. But if you integrate all the parts and give every piece of your life a fair chance, it's much more simpler. It's a simpler way to be.
Yeah, I like Professor Stuart Friedman. He's a professor at Wharton University in Philadelphia, and he's done a lot of work about work-life integration. He heads their work-life integration project, and he talks about having 4 spheres of your life. Your work, self, community, and home, and about how these spheres need to overlap.
Absolutely.
And the more they overlap, the more balanced, the more fulfilled you'll feel. And the spheres may not always be the same size.
Right.
So there may be a time, like for me, I have a 2.5-year-old at home. There may be for these first couple of years, that home life, that family life, that self life really expands, and the work life maybe shrinks a little bit, and the circles kind of shift and move. And that's why we have to be adaptable, and we have to be able to, constantly stay flexible with all this change.
And you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are not okay with it. And then it causes them a lot of trauma. So great. So tell me, what are you going to bring to Lunch Lady? I'm really excited to hear about that.
We're going to do a little bit of juggling. We're going to bring some juggling balls so that everyone will get a chance to really feel this.
And how do you want how's the room going to be set up? I mean, I'm not going to have tables.
Well, I think we could have, we have space there, right? We can move, we can be flexible, but we'll move around a bit. We'll stand up and get on our feet and maybe do some interacting with each other.
Yes, I think interacting is good.
But one of my passions is, and one of the things that people tell me they get out of my programs a lot is the feeling that they can do anything, which I love, and the idea that, you can create your unique path. You can put the different pieces of your own life together in a different way, find those new combinations of something that makes you unique. So, inspiring them, motivating them, but also giving them some tools to again, focus and prioritize, to collaborate and communicate more effectively, to have some tools for creating a process or a system, because that's so key, as we talk about, having this feedback loop of dropping the ball, figuring out what went wrong, how can we make those adjustments and constantly be improving.
And is there a way that we can actually have these people, the people that attend, look at the balls as part of their life? So this is my work life, this is my family life, or this is my money, or this is my whatever that is, and then bring all of them together in one place so that they get a real understanding that it's not separate and apart.
Yeah, definitely. I love doing that, kind of creating that, really taking the metaphor to another level of assigning the balls, a certain role. And there's you can even take it another step where, sometimes you may have a glass ball, right? Or that's a little bit, you don't want to drop, because some of the balls
that could be a client. That could be a client that you really want, you've coveted, and you've finally gotten this client. How to manage that client in a way that it's not a glass ball, that it's similar to all the other balls. And so if you drop it, it doesn't necessarily have to break.
Right.
You can drop the ball, or metaphorically speaking, but yet pick it up and still maintain that relationship no matter what happens. So I was,
but know that certain balls we may have to take more care with, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Certain balls are a bit, prickly.
Too many, but I learned this lesson when I taught sixth grade. I had to always say juggling balls, just say balls in front of a sixth grade classroom, because you get a lot of snickering.
Well, you probably will get it snickering with adults too. So, because we're just really taller versions of kids. So what's one of your biggest goals, or what is it that you want to accomplish with your juggling, with your keynoting, that kind of thing? What's that about?
I love inspiring people to really embrace continuous learning and the idea that more is possible, because I think and finding their unique path, because I think when each of us feel more happy and fulfilled in what we're doing, we have a better world, right? We have people that are not dissatisfied in their jobs, and people that are more fulfilled in doing better things in the world. But now, especially becoming a mom, I've had an additional challenge of figuring out how I want to juggle that, balancing work and motherhood. And, I see things maybe shifting in my business, moving forward. I have a lot of ideas about, nurturing his creativity and how that impacts my own creativity. And just knowing so many other entrepreneurs and freelancers who, have children and who ultimately choose this life of entrepreneurship or freelance because they want more flexibility, more time freedom, more financial freedom. So how can, sort of a community be built around, with these parents, and how can we take some of the lessons of parenting and how do they translate into the business world? Right. Because I think there's not that many people talking about that, how the two intersect.
Because that's an area that I'm looking at with the lunch lady, is the mompreneurs, or the individual, even the fatherpreneurs that are staying at home, how to get them into the workforce. Because I think what's missing with most entrepreneurs is that connection, connecting, networking, what networking actually can provide for them. So that's an area that I'm looking at integrating into.
So let's
as
keep
well.
talking about that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah.
So juggling. So what's a company that you want to juggle for?
Oh, good question. Well, I'm excited. I'm doing one on Friday for Nikon, the camera company. So that's a
juggling cameras.
I probably won't juggle cameras. I actually have juggled cameras. I did an event as a juggler, not as a speaker, years ago for Olympus, and it was at a trade show, and juggled some of their tough cameras to prove that they wouldn't break if dropped. But that I have actually juggled cameras. Just companies that I want to work with, companies who are creative, companies who are open to thinking about something in a different way.
outside of the box.
Yeah, thinking a little bit differently about how to approach something and taking this juggler's mindset, I call it, where you're looking at, okay, what's the goal? How do I establish a process or a system? Making sure that we're embracing a growth mindset, and then putting into place a system of deliberate practice or a process.
Right.
So companies that are open to that, companies that, really emphasize collaboration and innovation, those sort of companies are who I like to work with.
Where do you think, like just from your point of view and going into companies and doing your business, where do you think companies are they doing more people working from home, more telecommuting type stuff these days, or is it? Tell me a little bit about your experience with that.
I think companies are having to make work-life balance more of a priority, and so coming up with all sorts of creative ways to provide employees with that flexibility.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the more companies can, ultimately, we're more focused and present when we're more effectively integrating our work and life. So companies know this. When they can provide us with the tools we need to do that more effectively, then they're going to attract and retain more good employees.
Right.
And then when those employees feel valued and supported, they're going to be more innovative, more creative, more open to collaborating with each other, more willing to take risks because they have that, they feel supported. Right. Yeah.
What I've discovered recently was a client of mine she's got this really great promotion, and we created that over a period of a year. And she's now moved to Chicago, and what she's found is that in Chicago the culture is very, very different from New York. Now she goes to work at 8:30 in the morning. By 4 o'clock they're done. She said by 3:30, 3:45 people are getting ready to be out of there. By 4 there are literally the office is empty. And she realized that when she first got there and she was working. She turned around and she saw people putting on their coats. She was like, "Where are you going?" And they said, "We're going home." And she, stayed at work and spoke to a couple of employees, people that she manages from home. And they were like, "Oh, we've, 5:30, 6 o'clock, they've done dinner already." And so it's the culture is more of people are, family oriented, going home. But she said what the difference was that people were not working late, but she found that the productivity was extremely high. And the relationships at works were extremely high. So that's something that I would say that companies, we no longer have to stay stuck in the office. In New York City, we're always stuck in the office. People leave the office at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. There was a time I'd leave the office at 10 o'clock at night. But so in terms of working with employees and having them manage and balance their life, manage their life. Do you see that as something that's, taking place?
Yeah, definitely. we want to be more balanced, and, that making it a priority to make family life a priority. And there's so much now with, it's not just women, with children, men, finding that balance too. So definitely I see that there's really not much choice, that we have to embrace that.
Right. Okay. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
I'm the aptly named host of Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Big nonprofit ideas for the other 95%. Fundraising, board relations, social media. My guests and I cover everything that small and mid-sized shops struggle with. If you have big dreams and a small budget, you have a home at Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio. Fridays 1 to 2 Eastern at talkingalternative.com.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
TalkingAlternative.com.
are in the final segment with Miss Jen Slaw. I swear to God, every time I say Slaw, I think of Cole. It's like it's in my head. I can hear it in the background. So we're back. This is the final segment. And I wanted to ask you a question. And that is, when you were in middle school juggling, did you ever think that you would be getting paid today, mother, wife, as a juggler in corporations?
No, never envisioned that.
Right.
I did, in high school, I did write a poem, which I
do you remember it?
Oh yeah. I keep saying I'm going to turn it into a children's / motivational, inspirational picture book at some point, about really following your dream and about kind of,
share it, baby.
A girl who, basically runs away and joins the circus.
But she didn't.
Right. But I didn't. But no, never envisioned that. But, it was just something that I had this passion for, this love for. So, like we were saying, I would encourage anyone who has a passion from a young age to embrace that and to keep pursuing it and to see where it takes you. It might not become your full-time job or gig, but it might add value or interest to what you're doing and help you to stand out and make a connection. Adding
value and interest, it has to be shared. So you have to be able to be comfortable with that passion, which is, it's not a normal passion. It's an extraordinary passion, right? This is ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And Pat, you created juggling as a extraordinary thing that is now putting food and keeping a roof over your head, which was, you went to school for engineering. You didn't go for juggling.
If I can make a career out of juggling, you guys out there can make a career out of anything, right?
Absolutely, because anything is possible.
Right, exactly.
Right. So what would you share with somebody, like just say somebody who's like 35 and they're stuck in a career that they're not enjoying? Well, I usually tell people to window shop on the life. Have a look at where you spend your money, what you spend your time doing, so that they can actually shift, pivot into something new. What would you say to them?
Yeah, and I think you have to get out there and try things and just do it and try it. And looking back, I kind of see, a few trends and, as I made certain transitions, in terms, I talk about the off-Broadway show that I did. It's about finding the right partner. So it's like finding somebody to partner with or finding a company that you feel aligned with, that shares your purpose, your mission, your values. That's a key thing, and then you can sort of grow and transition from there if you're aligned with the right person or company. I always say, take a leap before you're ready. Just do it. Just get started. Try it. You're never going to have it.
You got to be ready to be ready.
I mean, you have to. I did. When I made the transition from engineering, as we talked about, I had certain things set up in place. I didn't just totally jump with no preparation. But you're never going to have it all figured out.
Right.
So you have to, be willing to take that leap. And then if you're aligned with the right person or partner or company, you have that support to figure it out as you go. And then I think
and that comes from sharing.
Yeah.
Because it's not just
exactly.
I'm going to meet the right partner in alignment. It's a conversation, which is a conversation that leads to the person that you need to speak to.
And I think that's the third, key piece is telling a story. Sharing why you do what you do. Having conversations with people. In the show that we did, it was so popular because it told a story, a love story, and it's the same thing in life. It's sharing again why you do what you do.
Your love story.
Because that's people are going to connect with that.
Absolutely, and it's your love story. It's your love of juggling that had you get to this place in your life.
Right.
You're probably going to teach your kid to juggle if you haven't started already.
Of course, we're already working on that. I think it was.
How old is the baby? 2 months?
He's 2.5, 2 3/4. And we started around, I can't remember if I started at 1 month, 3 months, around 3 months. A friend of mine made me these adorable little crochet juggling balls, baby juggling balls. And so I played with him, in his little chair with those. And he's very good at throwing. He's not so good at catching. He just kind of chucks things around, which is now a challenge because now that I've been encouraging him to throw things in the house, now that he's 2.5, I have to, we don't throw things in the house. He's like, well, wait a minute, Mom, you throw things in the house all the time, right? So that's a challenge, but it's so much fun. Yeah, every day is an adventure with him. The other day we were, he was giving me a little bit of trouble getting into his pajamas or something, and he started, throwing a little bit of a tantrum, and he kind of kicked me or hit me in the face, and I got upset, and also me getting mad, like he just laughs. It's not, I don't do mad very well. But anyway, I said, Gianluca, you don't hit Mommy in the face. And he got real close up to my face, and he said, I love you.
Oh.
And then he actually said, love is in the air. I don't know where this kid gets this from. And I said, you're a little stinker. And he looked at me and he said, I'm a comedian. This is my 2.5-year-old. So I'm in trouble.
You are in trouble. You are in trouble. Oh my
Every
God.
day is
that's-
an adventure with him. Definitely.
Well, God bless you. Because I remember when you were single and, weren't married, or maybe you were married and all of a sudden this. But seriously, time has really flown, because I would never have said it was 4 years. And you probably know it's 4 years because you've had some life changes and things like that.
And we kept in touch. We saw each other at some conferences.
Absolutely.
And
I always
so
keep in
that-
touch with people,
yeah.
especially people that I like, because you never that we always talk about, getting up, grow, you're doing things as you climb the stair. There's no stairs really, and it's also like things when you're coming down, but it's really good to keep relationships, even though we only met that one time, but it's really, I think that's a part of juggling, because we meet so many people. How do we keep in contact with people? How do you keep in contact with people?
Yeah, it's really hard. And I would say, in the last 2.5 years, I haven't been great about it. Again, it's, the thing about the circles expand and contract, and sometimes we're better at it than others.
Right.
But if simple things like, reaching out on a birthday or just
pressing that like, happy birthday, congratulations. It makes a difference.
Right. Or when you think of someone, you're just sending a quick little note. There's so many ways to nurture relationships.
Absolutely.
And then,
there's no one way. There's just many different ways, and you just got to find the ones for yourself.
Connecting someone to someone else who you think might make a good match.
Right, and it's not 100. It's not 100%. I don't know. I think they might be good, but I leave it to you. The rest is up to you guys to make it work. We're all adults,
right?
So anyway, I am looking forward to having you at Lunch Lady, which I'm very proud of. Lunch Lady. Pity I didn't have any Lunch Lady balls, but that's another story. You'll get a spoon.
Excellent.
You'll get a Lunch Lady spoon.
My 2.5-year-old will like banging the pots and pans with that.
And that will have you be our stirrer. You'll be an official stirrer of energy, because that's kind of like the conversation that I'm having. It's like we're stirring the energy for each and every one of us to be successful.
That's great. And I think it's such good timing, leading into the new year. We're all looking at, okay, how can we set goals for the new year, and how can we improve our businesses? So I'm really looking forward to coming in and helping to inspire the women.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things is to have people share their goals out loud, like, find a partner and share that goal. Share one goal that you'd like to accomplish this year. I've actually accomplished pretty much all my goals. And what I realized is that I have to make bigger goals, because once you've accomplished them, you have to make them bigger. And I realized that today. So, Jen, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to us being next week, Tuesday.
The time flew by. It was really fun. Thank you, Noreen.
It does fly. So thank you very much. And thank you all for being on. And, thank you guys for being on as well. And we'll see you soon.
First Facebook Live.
Absolutely. This is Noreen Sumter from Beyond Potential with Jen Slaw. We'll see you next week. Oh, Lunch Lady, www. Sorry, let me take that back. Facebook, New York, Lunch Lady NYC, or you can go into Eventbrite and put Lunch Lady in and click on. That's where you can get the registration and get your tickets. I'm all over a fluster. It's December 17th at 12 o'clock at Serendipity Labs. You have to register 24 hours before the event starts, otherwise you will not be able to get in. So www.eventbrite.lunchlady.nyc. Bye guys. I'll put it in the link.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.